All right, so listen up. We're switching back to Tahoma 2D. And the reason we're switching back to Tahoma 2D is because with open tunes, it is very difficult to render a video. Very, very difficult. They had promised to make it easier, which they've made slightly easier, but it's still difficult. And I don't want you guys to go through that frustration, so I'm asking you to go back to Tahoma 2D. And don't worry, Tahoma 2D is very easy to to learn. Let me just resize the screen a little bit. All right, let me raise this up. All right, so pretty much to use Tahoma 2D, it's just like OpenTunes. There are slight differences. So if you remember, with with OpenTunes, you had three different options to add a layer. With Tahoma, you only have new one, right? But everything else remains the same. As you can see here, all the different levels. And, this little circle with the square allows you to make something appear and disappear. The tools are on the left. And what else is there? The skeleton tool just looks like a bone, but it's still V to activate that. B is still for brush. G is still for geometry. A for animate tool, etc. And the layout may be different depending. For here you have one, two, three, four different layouts: 2D, stop motion, timing, and effects. So I'm in the 2D section, and it has here the schematic view, which you may or may not need. But the schematic view just shows you how this character is constructed. Anyway, I already have the character loaded, but let's say we didn't have it loaded. I could just go to load scene, look for my folder, which is here in my education folder, VTDI CS314, OpenTunes, Sandbox, Scenes. And under Scenes, I click on walk underscore cycle.tnz, and then I click load. And then it will ask me, hey, do you want to save what you have currently going? Do you want to discard the changes, save scene only, etc., etc., etc. Anyway, I'm going to cancel since I already have it up. And there's some animation here. But the first thing I would say to you, if you'll notice, the keys look different. The keys look like dots. Oh dear, noise. I wonder if you guys can hear me properly over the noise. I hope you can. Let me try closing the window to see if that will help. All right, so I think that helped a little bit. So yeah, you'll see these dots instead of the keys. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the first key, and then I'm going to go down that column, and I'm going to hold shift, click on the last key, and it will select all of those columns. And you can hit delete, and it will delete those, right? But I don't only want to delete those, I want to delete everything. So if I click on any, let me undo so you can see. If I click on any keyframe, right click it, and then go select all keys, you'll see all of them turn blue. And then all I have to do is click delete, and now we have no more keyframes. So we are starting from scratch. Now, if you remember in the last class, what I asked you to do was to make all the body parts that we don't want invisible. And so I don't want any of the upper body. I want us to only focus on the lower body right now. So I'm going to go through and let's go. Let me just start clicking on all the upper body parts: the head, the neck, the chest, the waist. And then this arm is behind. So you're going to find this arm way down below. So we have here hand B, forearm B, upper arm B. So all the arms have disappeared now, right? So since all the arms have disappeared, here is what we are going to do. Here is what we are going to do. So I showed you different ways of animating, and I'm going to show you why you need both ways of animating. So if we look at the tool section on the top left, you're going to see animate tool, which is A. I encourage you to learn the shortcuts. A is for animate, um, S is for selection tool, B is for brush. And you don't necessarily have to learn all of them because it's a lot to learn, but learn the ones that are most useful. Like C is your control point. And the skeleton, what skeleton? The skeleton have a shortcut key? Yes, V. Right? So one method is I would use the selection tool C. One of the things you have to bear in mind is make sure a level is selected. So let me click hit. So if I click C, this puts me in the control point tool. And once I click, you will see the control points for this shape show up. Then I'm going to click A. So what did that do? C just allowed me to click the shape that I want, and then A allows me to animate it. By default, the animation is set to position, as you can see with this drop down up here. So if I grab this, I can move it all over the place. Rotation allows me to rotate it. Scale, it does what it's supposed to do, allows me to scale it, make it bigger or smaller. Shear will kind of just twist it. Center will allow me to move this center point. And the center point is important because if I were to rotate, it's now rotating around that, right? So let me put it back. And then there is all, which basically allows you to do everything. So if I hover over here, it says rotate. If I hover over this one, it says horizontally skew. This one, scale, etc. But I don't like this one because it's kind of hard sometimes to see the controls. I kind of prefer to do one by one. If you're skilled enough to see all the controls, then yo, go ahead, right? Anyway, we're gonna come back to that. The next one is the bone tool. So when I click on the bone, the skeleton tool V, this allows me to see the hierarchy of the bones. Now by default, it's set to build skeleton. You want to remove it from that because if you start clicking on screen, it's going to add more bones and then your character is going to act funny when you try to animate it. So we have two types of animation. We have regular animate, and regular animate basically it allows you to grab any part of the character and rotate it. So if I grab the shin here, the red shin, it rotates that red shin. If I grab the green shin, it rotates that. And every time I click and move something, it's going to set a keyframe. As you can see here, the dots are showing up. Right? So I can, bam, I can move the foot. It's very, very easy. Right? So now let's show you what inverse kinematic does, which we did last class, but hey, nothing like a refresher. So the inverse kinematics, this now allows you to control everything that a shape is attached to, right? So essentially, this hierarchy here is showing us who's the parent and who's the child, right? So the ultimate parent is the hip, and then from the hip extends each leg. So the thigh is the parent of the calf is the parent of the foot. In inverse kinematics, the child has some influence over its parents. Where he goes, the parents will follow, right? And this is great for making quick poses, quick and dirty poses, but not great for accuracy. For best accuracy, when you go to animate, which is forward kinematics, the parent controls the child cannot control the parent. So if I move the hip moves. If I select C and then E, if I move the shin will not affect the thigh. Hit C again, click on the foot, hit A again. If I can move the foot, it will not influence the parents. So that's forward kinematics. All right, so now that we are over those basics, let us begin to animate, show you what you guys need to accomplish. So first thing is first, I would just set some keyframes for the visible layers by hitting Z. Z, 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 Z. Right? So we know this pose is frozen. But I'm going to change the pose slightly. So I'm going to go down to the bone tool just to make life easier for me. And let's just scroll back a bit. Oops. Having some trouble grabbing the thigh, this back thigh. Why am I having trouble grabbing you? Ah, there we go. So I'm going to do something here. Yeah, so you're going to see this little green cross here in the the middle of your shape. This is wherever you've set your pivot point. And I'm going to just move it forward, right? I'm going to just, oops, bring that down. So I'm going to click on this and I'm going to do the same thing, grab this cross here, move it backwards, right? This simulates your hip rotating as you walk. And we're going to bend this slightly, right? Great. So now I'm going to go about 12 and we're going to just do the opposite. We're going to set this forward. We can straighten it. And we're going to set this, oops, this back. I would have to bend it right now, but I'm just bending it just because. So clicking on the red one again, pull the crosshair forward. All right, is that the right? No, that's not the right one. There we go. Pull this back. Oops. There we go. So we see our legs swapping as if they're walking, right? Cool. So the next thing to do is let us just complete the cycle by grabbing these keyframes here on the left hand side, the far left, holding down shift, grabbing the last one, Control C, and I'm going to go to frame 24 and I'm going to go to the cell in line with the first keyframe, paste. So now you see it's just like OpenTunes. We just see here we basically have a walk, right? Let me click play. So we basically have a walk. Awesome. And if you remember these little things that look like a number 5 at the end of your keyframe, you can click those for continuity. It will basically repeat the animation until your keyframes end, wherever you have set your keyframes to end. Mine stops at 102, so it's very, very far. So if I play it, it will play for 102 frames, as you can see here. All right, so we're back at the beginning. So the next thing we want to do is just come halfway and we're going to basically do our passing pose. Now the passing pose is where the back leg is coming forward. When it comes forward, it's going to bend. All right, so we're going to bring it up to about here and then we're going to kick on the calf and we're going to come to about here. And we want to straighten the back leg. So let's come in close so we can grab the back leg accurately. It's not grabbing the back leg as accurately as I would like. So let me move this out of the way. Grab this back leg. There we go. And I'm going to straighten the back leg. Right, put it directly under the hips. And I'm going to bring this back to a passing position. We can just flatten the foot on the surface here, right? So that it looks like he's walking flatly on the surface. Right. Next thing we want to do, I'm going to go halfway between 1 and 6, which is 3. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a down pose. So the down pose, the leg that's in front is just slightly bent. And it's okay if you have a gap, right? Because we're going to fix that soon. Just want to get that as flat as possible. And this, we bend that accordingly. Right? So we're getting that. So as you can see at 2, the toe is peaking a little bit. So we can come in and fix that, but we're going to fix that later. So we have the down pose, the passing pose, and the foot shifted. Straighten this leg a bit. Right, there we go. And now we're going to go to 9 and we're going to create our up pose. And we're going to point this toe a little bit, straighten this leg a bit. All right. So don't worry about it passing through. We're going to fix that later. And then we do the same thing over here. We go to 18. And this time the green leg is the one that's passing from behind. So we're going to just straighten the red leg as much as we can. Maybe we'll leave a slight bend in it, just a slight bend. Because I do believe we had a slight bend in that pass, right? And then for this one now, oh, come on. I'm going to bend that. The influence is a little bit great on the red. So let's come in closer, push that forward, push this up, push the red back. There we go. Good. So we have that. Now we're going to do the same thing like we did before. We are going to create a down position. Don't worry about the height difference. Now we're going to bend that a little bit. And then we're going to go now to 21 and set the up. Now we straighten this, point this. See if we can get this a little bit straighter. Not really. Alright, so let's play it and see how it plays. There we go. So now we have a nice looking walk. But of course we have some points where the foot is passing through the ground. So here's how we're going to fix that now. Now we're going to switch from the skeleton tool to the animate tool. Right? So I'm going to click on A. Well, not A. First thing we're doing is click on C so we can quickly select the shape. Then we click on A and we're going to change this to position. We're not changing rotation at all. We're changing position. And the position is the height. So here we notice that, okay, the front foot is a little bit off the ground. So we're going to just grab and bring our thing down. You can hold shift to try and keep it steady. We see that the toe here is kind of, you know, below the ground. So I'm going to click C, select the shin. I'm going to choose A, rotation, and just rotate that slightly, right? So now it's above ground. And we can do the same here and fix that, right? So things are moving forward. So now we see here where the foot is just a little bit below the ground. So we're going to go C, select the hip. Why am I not able to select the hip? That's strange. Let's do a quick save. All right, let's click on. Not allowing me to click it. All right. Let's try this again. Coming closer. Nope. What's happening here? All right, let me just select the hip from the level. Animate. Position. So as we say, the foot is a little bit below the ground, so we're going to raise him up a bit. Now remember, this makes sense because when you're walking, when the character goes down, his hip is going to fall in height, and then as he goes up, he's gonna raise in height. And then similarly here, in the up position, this is the highest position. So we're gonna rise up to the tip of the toe, right? Normally, if we had a more articulate character, you know, the toes would bend a little bit. But since this character's toes can't bend, we're gonna just up it like that. And we can go in between here and just up it again. Here, up it again. So that we have that consistency, right? Where the foot does not pass through the ground. So now we see here for the contact pose, he's too high. So we're gonna bring him down. And this toe is passing through, so we can see. I'm not sure why C now work again. But either way, let's go thigh back. Animate, rotation. And there we go. We fix that. And we can again go in the in-betweens and fix. So we can click on position, click on the hip, raise him up a little bit. Bam. And you're pretty much just doing cleanup at this point, right? Raise him up. Look for other places where you need to raise up. Or you could rotate the foot to match whichever makes more sense. This one look a little lower. Cool. Bam. So now when we play it through, let's see what happens. Oh wait, I see a little floating somewhere. Let's go back and fix that. Bam. Right here. So we need to bring him down. And here. And you're seeing this floatiness occur because of not locking all the keyframes, but simple fix. So there we have it. A nice little walk, a nice little bubbly walk, right? So I want you guys to try the same thing. So watch this video over and over and over until you get it. And then what you're going to do to render it so that I can see where you reach is click render. And one of the things you want to check is output settings. And when you go to output settings, you're going to see here save in plus outputs, name walk cycle. Just so you know where it saves, click on the three dots besides save in. And look, it should be saved in your outputs folder, right? But you can always double check, right? And then you can just click, you could just click render at this point. Well, oh no. Go here and make sure MP4 is selected, right? You have different options. You have GIF. So if you want to save it as a GIF, you can. If you want to save it as a PNG, a MP4, you can. Sprite sheet, if you're making games, you know, AVI, I would not recommend AVI, it's too big. But you can choose MP4 and render it. And you wait for it to render. It's rendering and rendering and rendering and rendering. And it's rendering quite quickly, thank goodness. So now it's finished rendering. So if I go to my folder, see if I can find it quickly. Personal education, PTDI, CS314, home tunes, sandbox, outputs. Is this it? No, that's not it. Where is it? This was a previous walk cycle. Where did it save? Quality 90%, scale 100. Let me name it walk cycle 2, just in case. And let me just make sure. Output. All right, cool. All right, so let me click save and render. So it says it's rendering to outputs as walk underscore cycle 2 dot mp4. So we're going to check that and see if that is the case. All right, so walk cycle 2. It's still showing. Oh, yes. Let me tell you how to fix that. So remember that when you click on the circle and the square, this makes it invisible in your preview window. But to make it invisible in render, that's where you have to click the eyes. So let me click and turn off all the eyes. So we only see the hip. All right, so we're going to come up here again. And this time I'm going to click on fast render to MP4. That should save it to the same folder. So let us see if that is true. So it actually did save properly the first time, but I just didn't realize because I saw the upper body and thought that it was a previous render. So outputs. Oh, this look like it's still saved. Hold on. Let me see this again. All the eyes have disappeared. Render. Save and render. And oops, let me cancel that. Okay, so it was rendering out properly, but waste, I need to make waste disappear. All right, so I could go back again. Render. There we go. So let's check. There we go. So as we can see, you were just seeing the hips alone walking. So this is what I want you guys to be able to get. Try and get this walk. All right, so let me end this segment here.